This is my audience, Emily and Emily. Taylor could not be here today. I'm sorry if I get points off for that. This is my speech on anxiety. Anxiety is not fun, especially when you don't understand it. Some people are born with this disorder and others develop it over time. As a child, I grew up in an environment that caused some trauma, and this is why I developed my anxiety. I was diagnosed at the age of 19 with a general anxiety disorder, and with therapy, it has really improved. It is clear how my anxiety has manifested now that I have taken the time to process my emotions with a licensed professional. Most children will not understand what anxiety is unless you give them a name to the feeling. This feeling can often be confused with the feeling of nervousness. They are not the same. But this is why parents should pay attention and regularly ask questions on how their child is feeling. If a child can put a name to the feeling, it will help them process it and talk about it with their parents. If they can't put a name to the feeling, this will cause a lot of frustration. An example is when I was younger, I would tell my parents I was feeling nervous, especially walking into school, but they did not realize that I also had an elevated heartbeat and I could not focus in class. The difference between nervous and anxiety is nervousness doesn't prevent us from doing things. Anxiety is something that can prevent us from doing activities that make us feel this emotion. Nervousness is also a response to something in specific. Anxiety can be general and can happen from anything, and we might not know the trigger. Anxiety can develop due to an environment that the child is raised in. According to the longitudinal study of inhibited temperament, effortful control, and anxiety in early childhood, anxiety disorders are among the most common and are developed in earliest as 6 years old. This is significantly impairing to a child, especially at this age. Part of the reason why I had so much anxiety as a child was because my dad was in the military and he would leave for long periods of time, and it was scary because I honestly did not know if he would come back. Very traumatic. Parents are able to spot these signs themselves, but they have to really pay attention to their child, and they need to call the signs out when they see it, or else if it goes unnoticed, the child can develop an even worse anxiety. Parents should also educate themselves so that they are less likely to be the cause. Lack of co-parenting is an example of something that can cause anxiety in a child's life. The inconsistency between going from mom to dad and asking for things, and then parents arguing over something, is very hard for a child to deal with and grow up with. The way a parent speaks to their child can also cause anxiety to manifest from a general feeling to a disorder. For example, yelling at a child is not healthy for their mental state because it can cause them to panic, since they are put in a situation where they are not able to get away from, and they will freak out in their brain and not be able to talk because it can cause panic attacks as well. The relationship between a daughter and her mother directly impacts her relationship with herself. If a person doesn't have a good relationship with themselves, they can doubt themselves more often and cause themselves to spiral, and the feelings of anxiety can take over their entire lives. A father's relationship with his daughter translates into a child's relationship with men further in their life. Anxiety can cause relational codependency, especially when it's caused by the parents. According to an article done on codependency published by the American Journal of Family Therapy, says anxiety is caused by a combination of low self-esteem, guilt, and shame, and this will become worse with the toxicity from codependent relationships. Codependency describes being emotionally or psychologically reliant on something or someone, meaning that you cannot function without this person or thing. This can cause anxiety when in situations that you cannot reach or be around this person or thing. This is why codependent relationships can lead to codependency on drugs and alcohol. Codependency issues can be nipped in the bud with healthy parent and child relationships and therapy. Codependency issues. When a person has reached adulthood and has been living with anxiety, this is when it's time to seek therapy. We are very lucky to live in a society where we have licensed therapists who can also become our friend and learn everything about us. Going to therapy will help process these feelings of anxiety in a healthy way rather than going for drugs and alcohol and becoming codependent. This is a common mistake when dealing with anxiety, and if you tend to rely on these things, anxiety will only become worse and these feelings will only continue to take over your life. Anxiety can be managed with practices of preventative behaviors and methods of calming oneself with medications if deemed necessary. Overall, anxiety should be addressed with the right tools and a professional so that it does not continue to take over our lives. Thank you.